What is going on, guys? My name is Tim Roswick, and today we're talking about boss battles. Now, if you watched the live stream on Friday, you saw that we went back and forth on a series of different concepts for a boss battle in my game, Phylophobia. This was the first boss in the game, and we made a series of adjustments and changes to how the boss worked, and we made it a lot better, to be honest. It was just awesome. So I'm going to be talking about some of the lessons that I learned during that stream, but also the 5 things that I think every boss battle needs. And it's the reason why I worked so hard in this boss battle, because I was really trying to hit those 5 things because I think they're so critically important. So for those of you that don't know, we're going to go to the game right now. This is the boss battle for Phylophobia. This is the first boss battle. And in this room, it's an empty room. There's no boss. You may notice that. Which leads me to the number one thing that I think a boss battle needs. And this is probably the least important of the 5, if I'm being honest. But I always like this because I feel like anything that repeatedly kills the player is bad. And some games just have things that just repeatedly kill the player. But if you notice, I'm not dying because I have to start the encounter. I have to press this button to start the encounter. So that's number 1. I think all good boss battles need something that triggers the start of the encounter. Like I said, this is one of those things that maybe you could, depending on the design of the game, maybe you could do without. So it's not as important as the other 4, but I think it's very important anyway. So I'm going to press this button, I'm going to start in the encounter, and we're going to see number 2. So number 2 is the intro animation. This guy goes crazy when he gets introed. He comes up out of the lava and he does this crazy roar. I think bosses really need an intro animation. It's so critically important because I think every boss needs this, no matter what the game design is, whatever. They need some kind of intro animation that makes the boss seem aggressive or scary or whatever it is. It's got to make them seem like they're a bad guy, like they're bigger than the normal bad guy for whatever reason. And just having this big boss here doesn't do it justice. They got to do some kind of interesting, crazy things. So like one of my favorite games is Metal Gear Solid, and in that game, you know, no one comes out and roars, but each one of the bosses has a really interesting little like story snippet, or there's a room full of bodies or something leading up to how the thing works, how the boss works, you know, how the battle works. So that's really interesting. Number 2 is the intro animation. Number 3 is some sort of interactivity in the environment. In this boss battle, you've got these little paddles that you step on to create these barriers, and that reflects his bullets. And randomly the button pops up, and you got to step on it to reflect the bullets, like so. So I think interactable environments that kind of can cause damage to the boss are really interesting. In games where you can shoot, they're not as important because obviously you can just shoot the boss, but I think any kind of interactive environment is probably a good thing for a boss. I thought I was going to die there. I'm not even going to lie. I thought I was going to die there. I was so sure I was going to die. So interactive environments are really important in my book. I think it just makes the game feel interesting. So we're going to hit him one more time, and then I'm going to show you number 4. Here we go. He's going to shoot. Number 4. Number 4 is phases. We just hit phase 2 of the boss, and now he spawns this heart that is just going to follow me around and make the battle harder. I think phases in boss battles are really important, and it's something I see a lot of indie developers forget about because they just want to create this big bad enemy that is bigger than everything you can imagine and will kill you all the time. But the multiple phases, starting at, you may not even want to start the boss out at like super intimidating or super scary. You may want to actually have him like get to that point through a series of phases, and making something more complicated or harder as it progresses is really important because it adds like a sense of like, okay, now I got to this point. Now I got to this point. And I think every good battle, like every good longer term boss battle that I've ever played in a game has multiple phases. I just think it's a really, really important little concept. Okay, so those are 4 things. The 5th thing, I think, are predictable moves. So as you can see, he opens up his mouth. I know he's about to shoot every time. When he opens up his mouth, he's about to shoot. And those are predictable to me. I know that there's patterns. Predictable patterns are a really important part of every boss battle, because if you don't know the patterns, even if they're randomized, like in the order that they happen, I'm trying to avoid this heart here because he's trying to ride on me. The predictable patterns are really important. So we just made it to phase 3, and this makes it even more difficult. It adds these little hearts that appear when I run past them, which I'm pretty sure I just committed suicide that way. Doing that with this heart here. Oh, no, we made it out. Okay, perfect. So the predictable patterns are really important. Like even with this heart guy here, you can see he's making it a pain in the ass for me, but he's predictable. I can predict him, and I can even predict what this port. Oh well, couldn't predict that, but I could predict everything else, right? The boss is generally predictable. He doesn't do anything crazy. He doesn't shoot any ridiculous shit. Every time he makes a move, I know about it because the animation shows up. I know he's going to shoot. I know what he's going to shoot. I know what the bullet does, so on and so forth. It just takes a little getting used to. It takes a little learning. Those are the 5 things that I think every boss battle needs. I think there are a lot of other stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of different intricacies. I'm by no means the best, boss battle designer in the entire world. I've designed a handful of bosses, but these are the things that I've learned through experience, through playing games, through like iterating on my boss battles over and over and over again. That I think really are important to boss battles, because like when one of these things is missing, I feel like an empty spot in my heart, no pun intended. And I don't feel like it's a full-on experience. I just feel like something's missing. Like especially the predictable patterns are really important for the gameplay. And then the intro animation is really important for like the feel. It sets the tone for the entire fight. So those 2 things especially, I think are really important. And then the phases just add the different levels of difficulty. So I think those are really important too. But those are my 5 things. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment below. If you got any questions on this or anything I could help to answer on boss battles or anything else that I've learned with Phobia, leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer them. But once again, I'm Tim Ruswick, and I will see you tomorrow.